So something major happened this past weekend, and I'm not talking about the fact that our Hurricanes beat the brakes off of Florida State. That's not what I'm talking about. Something happened actually after the game that was a pretty big deal, if you ask me. But before we get into that, my name is Jordan Harris. I'm your favorite host in the entire world, and this is Sports Truth. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. As I've said before, the currency that you all pay me with are subscriptions. I don't ask you to send me money of any sort, but the subscriptions, liking the video, that helps me out tremendously. So thank you. I appreciate it ahead of time. All right, so what are we talking about? Actually, the thing that I'm talking about here is the press conference that came right after the game. Mario Cristobal made a few statements that we'll talk about, but the statement, it actually had like a small little secret meaning behind it that I think might have flown over some people's heads. So I'm going to talk about what that meaning is, and then I'm going to talk about why it's so important to the near future of Hurricanes football. Okay? So first, let's go back a couple of years when the Seminoles came to Hard Rock Stadium and they beat the brakes off of our Hurricanes. It was bad, right? They beat us by over 40 points. And the statement that Mario Cristobal made after being asked about Florida State running the score up, he said, "I don't care about that stuff. It's our job to stop them from scoring. And one day we'll switch shoes." Basically saying the shoe's going to be on the other foot. So I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to cry about the fact that they were running the score up. It's our job to stop them. We didn't do that. So I'm not going to blame them for running the score up. I love that energy. I love it. Don't complain about it. Don't cry about it. Just get better and do something about it. That's what I tell my employees. That's what I tell my kids. Don't whine about it. Figure out how to get better and do better next time. So this time, after beating after beating Florida State handily, Mario Cristobal ended with this statement right here. He said, "It's critically important to go out there and beat this program," talking about Florida State, "and be undefeated in the state of Florida. I think it sends a strong message. All recruits, in state and out of state, can now clearly see the trajectory of this program versus the trajectory of other programs." Then he banged on the table, did a little death stare, and then walked off. I'm telling y'all, I love that energy. I'm not going to complain. It seems like Mario Cristobal's mindset is a little similar to mine. I think that's why I've always admired him. He's not crying about when things are bad. All he's doing is going to work and figure out how to make them better. And then when things are going well, we don't mind telling you, yeah, that's what just happened. I don't mind doing that. Like if you beat me real bad in a game, and then I practice and get much better, and then the next time I beat you, you gonna hear about it. The entire time while I'm beating you, you gonna hear about it. So I think he's got the same mentality that I have. So now, the statement that he made, why is that such a big statement? And what is the small secret in that statement? What he let me understand was he understands that college football is all about, not all about, but it's like 85% about recruiting and talent acquisition. He made it clear. He's like, hey, all of your recruits, I'm talking about in-state and out-of-state, you can clearly see where Miami's going, and you can clearly see where Florida and Florida State's going. He called himself, they call themselves the state champions because they beat the brakes off of Florida and Florida State this year. So once again, he knows that recruiting and talent acquisition, those are the keys to winning in college football. He understands that. But what's a part of the secret that he let us in on? The part that he let us in on is that he's not competing with other schools. He knows that all he has to do is beat the teams in Florida. He's not worried about Georgia. He's not worried about Alabama. He's not even worried about Texas. He knows if he can beat out these teams in Florida, he will win because he knows the recruiting in Florida is astronomical. So I did a little bit of research, and I just looked at the states that have the highest rated high school recruits coming into college. I just did a quick little search on it, and 24/7 Sports had a pretty cool composite score that they've been keeping for quite a while. And this past year, Texas rated number one as far as how many, not the University of Texas, but just the state of Texas has the most players on the 24/7 top rated. I think it was like top 150 players. Texas had the most on that list. The second school, or I'm sorry, the second state on that list was Florida. So Mario Cristobal understands this. This is where his thought process is because this is where my thought process would be. He's saying if every state, if they all just made a high school all-star team, let's say if Texas had an all-star team, Florida had an all-star team, Oregon made an all-star team, if every state had an all-star team, Mario Cristobal knows Florida would win it. It would be, between Florida, Texas, and California. He knows it'd be between those three every time. With that being the case, he's like, okay, we've got all this talent here in Florida, almost as good as anywhere else in America. So if I'm able to keep all of these players here in Florida, I could develop these guys into a national championship team. If you think back, like when Alabama was unstoppable, and now you see Georgia is looking crazy like a juggernaut. How were they? Like, how was Alabama able to pull this kind of stuff off? It's because they were able to come into Florida and pluck these talented athletes out every now and again and put them on their Georgia team or put them on their Alabama team. And then also think back when Miami and Florida State would play each other, and it was like basically the winner of this team, the winner of this game is going to end up winning the national championship. So when that kind of thing was happening, how was that happening? And the answer to that is it's because they were able to keep all of the players from Florida, not all of them obviously, but the majority of the top players in the state of Florida coming out of high school, they were staying home and going to Miami or they were going to Florida State. And those two teams would clash and then they'd go beat the brakes off of anybody else they played against for the rest of the year. So that is Mario Cristobal's mindset. It's like, I don't have to worry about Georgia and Texas and all of these other places. All I've got to do is beat the brakes off of Florida State, beat Central Florida if we ever played them, just embarrass all of these other schools to where recruits wouldn't even consider going there, and make Miami the only sensible college program to go play for. That's his game plan, is to make sure that these other Florida schools are so embarrassing that these incoming freshmen wouldn't even consider putting on a Florida State jersey because all they think is Miami is the school to be at. That's his game plan. So if you go and look at the current situation in Florida, let's do a quick look at that real quick, okay? So if you look at Florida, they are 4-3. This is just the current records of all the top schools in Florida. So Florida is 4-3. We got Florida State, who's 6-1. Oh, my bad. That's 1-6. Okay, Florida State 1-6. Tragic. Okay, we got UCF. They're 3-5. USF 3-4. Florida Atlantic 2-5, and Florida International 3-6. So every team outside of Florida, which they will end the season with a losing record, I can almost guarantee you that. So every school outside of Miami and Florida, the Gators, they all have losing records, all of them. Florida State losing record, UCF losing record, USF losing record, Florida Atlantic losing record, Florida International losing record. And again, Florida is 4-3, and their schedule coming up here is crazy. They're gonna probably lose out, so they're gonna end the season with a losing record. They'll probably end up 5-7 is what I'm thinking. All right, so that's something to keep in mind, right? The fact that every other school outside of the Gators has a losing record, and the Hurricanes are currently undefeated. So if you were an in-state recruit, if you were playing football, you are a 5-star athlete in the state of Florida, and you are picking a school to go to, and you have Miami over here that's undefeated and looking like their trajectory is going straight up, and then you've got every other school in Florida losing, it's almost a no-brainer. So again, Mario Cristobal is thinking, I'm not worried about Georgia, Florida, Texas, any other schools. All I've got to do is beat out these other schools in Florida. Because if I can make an all-star team of these high school players in Florida, and put them on my college team, these guys will grow to be the most dominant football team in the nation. He knows that. All right, so now let's look at the recruiting levels, okay? So right now, UCF, and this is going to drive home some of the parts that I'm talking about as far as bringing all of these guys in and making like an all-star team of Florida, okay? So UCF right now, they're ranked number 38 in the nation. They're recruiting for 2025 year. They're ranked number 38. They have four stars in that recruiting cycle. So year 2025, they're going to bring in four stars. Okay? Florida State, they're ranked number 48 as far as their recruiting level goes. They have 1 5-star and they've got 8 4-stars that's coming in. They actually just lost 3 4-star wide receivers. They all decommitted within just a few weeks of each other. So their trajectory is down, down, down. It's nasty over there. Florida, they are ranked number 51 in the recruiting levels, and they have 1 5-star and 5 4-stars. So they also have a coaching change that might be happening. It looks like Billy Napier might be pulling that rabbit out of the hat that we said he has to do to be able to keep his job, because I didn't see them winning 3 games, and they've already won 4. So the fact that he was able to win 4 in that crazy schedule they have, I think they might keep the dude around another year. I don't know. But there is a potential coaching change there, and if he gets fired, I wouldn't say all of these guys are going to jump out the window, but I'm thinking at least half of them will. This 1 5-star and these 5 4-stars, probably half of those will jump out the window, go somewhere else. USF has the number 55 ranked recruiting so far in 2025. Florida Atlantic is 63rd, and then Florida International is way back 98. Excuse me, choked on my own spit there. It was weird. So now hear me out on this. You know, Miami's recruiting is going really well so far in this 2025 recruiting session. It's going pretty well. But imagine if we were to add those four 4-stars that's going to UCF. Imagine if we were able to add those to this Miami recruiting list, right? Florida State, they've got the 1 5-star and the 8 4-stars. Imagine if we could add those guys and put those on Miami's recruiting list. Florida, they have a 1 5-star and they've got 5 4-stars. It's hard to say this. I'm going to say it again. Florida has 1 5-star and 5 4-stars. Imagine if you could take those players and put those on the incoming recruiting that's coming in, right? So that's what I'm talking about when I say building an all-star team from Florida high school. If you can keep all of those here, I keep saying here, I'm actually in Wichita, Kansas. I'm not in Miami, Florida, or Coral Gables. But when I say here, I'm just talking about Miami Hurricanes, okay? So if we were able to keep all of these players here in Miami, the team would be nasty. Like, we would have a number 1 recruiting ranking every year just about if we were able to keep all of these players. Right now, it's like a big pool of these players. Some of them go to UCF, some of them go to the University of Florida, some of them go to Miami, some of them go to Florida State. If we can continue to dismantle these other schools and make their trajectory look as bad as it is over a few years, then these players won't be going to UCF anymore. Those 4-stars would decide to go to Miami. These 5-star athletes wouldn't go to Florida State, and they wouldn't go to Florida anymore. They would choose Miami. So that's the game plan, and I think that's what Mario Cristobal's mindset is when he says it's critically important to go out there and beat this program and be undefeated in the state of Florida. I think it sends a strong message. All recruits in-state and out-of-state can now clearly see the trajectory of this program versus the trajectory of other programs. That was the secret meaning in what he was saying when he made that statement. Once again, my name is Jordan Harris. I appreciate you watching the video. Please do leave a like and also subscribe to the channel. I appreciate the love that I've been getting in the comment section. It's a whole lot of people who have been giving a whole lot of positive messages and whatnot, so I appreciate that, man. We feed on positivity here. I don't like all that nasty, negative talk and going back and forth. We can disagree. People in the comment section, y'all can disagree, but let's be respectful and let's be cool. Also, It's voting season. Go out there and vote, man. Make your voice heard, right? Got to get your new president here, so let's vote. All right. So once again, I appreciate the support. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I truly appreciate that. So take care. God bless. Peace.